Well, these days, it's finally easy to find solid story mode games on Android, and something that used to be much harder back around 2020. Android has been getting a bunch of great PC ports and even some unique fully offline exclusives with full story campaigns, and if you want to discover them right now, you know what to do. And hit that like button and let's get into it. Let's kick things off with an Android exclusive, in one of the most iconic and classic RPGs out there, ZENONIA. ZENONIA 5 is a well-known action RPG featuring 2D pixel art graphics, keeping the classic style of the series. It was developed by Gameville. The story takes place long after a great war that once brought peace, but over the years greed and selfishness slowly corrupted people's hearts. The wealthy elite began exploiting the poor and a deep darkness started to spread across the kingdom. The game sticks to that fast-paced action RPG style with reactive and skill-based combat that really depends on your timing. You can choose from 4 starting classes, and even though it's completely offline with a full story campaign, it still includes the classic PvP mode. And here's a cool detail: there's actually a community working on remaster style versions of the older ZENONIA games. If you're curious, just take a look on Reddit and you'll find them. A pixel art game that blends horror with lots of puzzles and a surprisingly well crafted story. Let's talk about YUPPIE Psycho. You play as Brian Pasternak, an insecure and completely unprepared young man who out of nowhere gets hired for his first job at Sintracorp, but what was supposed to be a bright, promising opportunity quickly turns into something terrifying. During his orientation, Brian learns that his real task is to become a witch hunter and take down a witch who years ago corrupted the entire company and has now returned to torment everyone inside. Unlike most horror games on Android, this one leans heavily into story-driven tension. Instead of jump scares, it builds a full immersive horror atmosphere that keeps you on edge the whole time. Even with its pixel art visuals, it delivers a refined horror experience with a gripping narrative from start to finish. Well, this is one of the toughest games I've played on Android. I died way too many times, but the ending makes it all worth it. Let's talk about Wall of Insanity. The story begins with a police operation meant to arrest members of a dangerous cult, but the entire team suddenly goes missing. You play as a special unit soldier sent to investigate their disappearance. When you arrive, all you find is an empty abandoned house, and the deeper you go inside, the worse everything becomes, and the harder it gets to escape. The game is a third-person shooter where you have to take down all kinds of horrifying creatures. Survival depends on your accuracy, reactions, and caution. Unlike many games with unlimited ammo, here you really need to think about how you use every weapon. In short, if you're looking for an indie horror shooter with a dark storyline, intense action, and a nightmare-like atmosphere, Wall of Insanity is a great pick, and it's worth noting that the second game was recently released as well. One of the best RPGs from the PS1 era is fully available on Android. Did you know that? Well, let's talk about Valkyrie Profile, Lenneth. You play as Lenneth Valkyrie, one of Odin's battle maidens. Your mission is to descend from Asgard, the realm of the gods, to Midgard, the realm of mortals, and find the souls of fallen warriors, the Einherjar, to recruit them for the coming war. One of the most striking parts of the game is that every time you recruit an Einherjar, you witness their entire life story and their tragic death. It feels like you're an angel watching over a brutal, endless conflict. The game is truly a masterpiece and simply flawless. And if you love RPGs, this is easily one of the top 10 ever created, and that's not even mentioning its stunning pixel art, which is absolutely beautiful. Continuing with the line of Japanese RPGs that are truly worth your time, here's another absolute masterpiece, The Trials of Mana. Just like every game in the Mana series, the story revolves around an imminent threat to the world as the mana tree begins to wither and peace slowly starts to fall apart. The game features a total of 6 playable characters, and you can choose one as your main hero while adding 2 others to your party as support. Each character has their own storyline that unfolds as you progress, and even the final boss can change depending on the path you take. Combat is fast, real-time, and dynamic. You can switch between any of your 3 party members almost whenever you want, and of course the game is visually stunning too. It's honestly hard to find anything poorly done here. As far as I'm concerned, this game is close to perfect. If you're into Metroidvanias, or more specifically, if you're a Castlevania fan, you're going to love this one. Let's talk about TOZIUHA Night. This game is a full-on tribute to Castlevania, so a real love letter to the classic Konami era. You play as Xandria, a skilled and striking iron alchemist. Xandria is on a quest for revenge, wielding her powerful iron whip, a signature weapon of the genre, as she faces terrifying demons and other alchemists in pursuit of an ancient power. If you know Castlevania, the gameplay will feel familiar, but since this is a newer game, it brings in some modern mechanics that the older titles never had. bad. For example, you can combine iron with other chemical elements like carbon, phosphorus and oxygen to create different alloys, unlocking new spells and powerful attacks. I'm personally not a huge fan of this style of game, but I have to admit, TOZIUHA Knight is absolutely perfect for anyone who loves the genre. If I'm not mistaken, this game was originally from Nintendo and later got a port for Android and with the date was rasta by Imalda, though it's not exactly up to date. Let's talk about Sword of Ditto. The story takes place on Ditto Island, a peaceful place that falls into danger every 100 years when the evil Momo returns. Each time this happens, a child from the island is chosen to become the Sword of Ditto, a legendary hero destined to face Momo. Your protagonist, who can be human, a wolf, a robot, or even another creature, has only a short amount of time to prepare for the final battle. But if you fail to defeat Momo, your hero dies, and the island is plunged into 100 years of darkness. The gameplay is heavily inspired by the early Legend of Zelda games, featuring a top-down view and real-time combat. The fighting is fun, even if a bit limited, but the game really stands out by adding a storyline that almost feels like a roguelike, making each run unique in its own way. Easily the game with the best gameplay on this entire list, but also one of the shortest, which is a shame. Let's talk about Samurai 2. This is probably one of the oldest Android games still alive today. If I'm not mistaken, it was released back in 2011 and it's still available even now. The game is well known for its cel-shaded graphics, giving it a 3D comic book or a manga style look. That visual style is paired with intense violence and gore. Lots of blood and dismemberment, which fits perfectly with its dark feudal Japan atmosphere. I never really understood the story that well because your samurai just shows up wanting revenge from the first game. Even though I've never heard anyone talk about the first one, Samurai 2, Vengeance is a game that, despite its age, is remembered for its fast-paced action, stylish visual design, and addictive hack-and-slash gameplay. Without a doubt, one of the best offline games released this year, truly a work of art. Let's talk about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Unlike other Prince of Persia games by meets, or at least what most people picture when they think of the franchise hype, this one is fully 2D and completely different from the previous titles. Still, it keeps the classic mechanics the series is known for. Sargon can jump, slide, and even perform an air dash to move fluidly through the environment. The combat is incredibly responsive, satisfying, and smooth, with parrying being one of its core mechanics. The story begins when Prince Ghassan is kidnapped and Sargon and the Immortals are sent to rescue him on Mount Kaf. But Mount Kaf is a place where time and space are distorted, and the mission quickly becomes much more dangerous and complex than it first seemed. Easily the most relaxing and adorable game on this entire list, a mix of simulation and RPG that really pulls you in. Let's talk about Potion Permit. The story takes place in the small traditional village of Moonbrae. The villagers have always distrusted modern medicine, relying instead on old healing methods, but everything changes when the mayor's daughter gets sick, and you're the only one capable of preparing the cure. You start off with a terrible reputation since the previous alchemist from the capital caused a lot of trouble, so now it's up to you to earn the villagers' trust again. What's interesting here is that your character doesn't have a deep personal story, but you interact with the townspeople, learn about their problems and motivations, and help them whenever they need it. Gaining their trust is crucial because it unlocks new dialogue, new relationships, and yes, even romance with some of the local singles. This might be one of the most intriguing and interesting horror stories you'll find in an Android game. Let's talk about the little-known PSICOSIS. PSICOSIS fits into the adventure and psychological horror genre, mixing simple gameplay with a strong focus on story progression. The plot is dark and follows William, a boy who drifts constantly between hallucination and reality. He has no real friends, only strange imaginary ones, and he can't fully understand what's real and what isn't. The game takes place across different everyday locations in Will's life. You'll go to school, visit relatives, or walk through familiar places, but the monsters are always exactly where Will needs them to be. In short, PSICOSIS is a great pick if you're looking for a psychological horror game with a deep, unsettling story. Here's another older game, but definitely one that's worth checking out. Let's talk about OCEAHORN. You wake up to find a letter from your father. He's gone. The only clues you have are his old journal and a mysterious necklace. Your journey has two goals: finding your missing father and uncovering the truth behind Oceanhorn, the living fortress that threatens the entire world. One cool detail is how you start off as a complete nobody, as an inexperienced kid, and as the story unfolds, you slowly become a living legend. You explore an open world made up of different islands, each one filled with dangers, puzzles, and secrets waiting to be discovered. If you're a fan of action RPGs with a strong focus on adventure, island exploration, and Zelda-style puzzles, Oceanhorn is an excellent choice. A revenge-driven story with a brutal, almost Souls-like combat style, and a game that most people have never even heard of. Let's talk about No Place for Bravery. You play as Thorn, a retired warrior who left his sword behind to live a peaceful life with his family and his young daughter. But everything changes when she's kidnapped, and Thorn decides to travel to the ends of the world to bring her back. His entire journey is fueled by the search for his long-lost daughter, Leth, who was taken from him many years ago. The combat is harsh, punishing, and incredibly technical. Mastering the parry is essential. Finding the balance between blocking, parrying, dodging, and attacking is what determines whether you survive or die. Thorn's stamina is also limited, so managing it becomes a key part of every fight. It's an amazing game, one you definitely need to experience. KITARA Fables recently came to Android, and even though it's a super cute Nintendo style game, it has some really interesting mechanics, and here's everything you need to know. You play as Nyanza, or Nyan, a brave feline warrior sent by the Empire to protect the peaceful Paw village. That peace doesn't last long though. A growing darkness tied to an ancient calamity begins to spread, causing the wildlife around the village to turn aggressive. Your journey is all about protecting the village, fighting monsters, uncovering ancient relics, and slowly becoming part of the community. The game feels a bit like PERTMIT, which we already talked about, but with a big difference. It's much more focused on combat. Still, it includes a lot of simulation systems as well, mixing adventure, farming, crafting, and exploration in one charming package. The game with the best gameplay on this whole list, absolutely addictive. Let's talk about the legendary and chaotic Katana Zero. Both you and most enemies die in a single hit. That turns every stage into a deadly puzzle where precision and planning are everything. To succeed, you have to map out and execute the perfect sequence of moves. And at the end of each level, the game shows a full replay of your flawless run, making you feel like a legendary hitman. You also have a few extremely important abilities like slow motion and dodging, which you'll rely on constantly. The story follows a mysterious samurai assassin who suffers from amnesia, with his memories twisted by a drug called Chronos. He's haunted by disturbing flashbacks from a past war. Your missions come from a psychologist who also happens to be your Chronos supplier. The narrative unfolds through therapy sessions and interactions with the people around you. Hitman Absolution is the fifth main entry in the acclaimed Hitman series, released in 2012 by IO Interactive. It's a title that often splits opinions among longtime fans of the franchise. Agent 47 receives a contract from the ICA, the International Contract Agency, to assassinate his former handler Diana Burnwood, who betrayed the organization. But instead of being just another routine hit, Diana makes one final request for 47 to protect a young girl named Victoria. The core disguise mechanic is still here, letting 47 blend into different environments, along with the creative freedom to eliminate targets in all kinds of ways. And it's worth mentioning that on Android the game is actually pretty new. It just released this year, even though it's an older title. Honestly, for playing the full story mode, I personally prefer these older games. And that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.